a Playlyst original.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast,
where we review the pilot episodes of TV shows to answer your question, should I watch this?
My name is BJ.
And my name is Mitu.
And this week, we're watching the Decameron on Netflix, Kite Man Hell Yeah on Max, Wayne Brady, the Family Remix on Freeform, and Master of the House on Netflix.
So stay tuned to the end to find out BJ's favorite DC Comics villain.
Oh, I am more of a Marvel fan, but I do have an answer.
Okay, nice.
Before we get to that, how about we head to a pre-superhero era?
You're talking about the Decameron on Netflix. Inspired by the Italian text of Boccaccio, this story follows a group of nobles and servants in Italy who retreat to a villa in the countryside during the bubonic plague, and their lavish getaway quickly spirals into chaos.
I think one of the cool things that you mentioned is that this is nobles and their servants. And I think this show does a really cool job of showing both sides of the class wars, apparently, that are going on in Florence at the time.
Yes, it's a very Black comedy, and that especially comes out when the nobles and the servants interact with each other. So there's a scene where Pampanea, played by Zosha Mamet, sees a man outside of her very fancy home in Florence shouting, my wife, she's dead." And she turns to her handmaiden and just goes, "Oh, what a beautiful love story." It's just like, it's so messed up. And so clearly she's just in her own universe.
Because when you're rich, you just focus on what you want. We meet Philomena, played by Jessica Plummer, and she's just concerned about finding someone wealthy to marry so she can maintain her lifestyle, even though down the hall, her dad has the plague and is suffering and screaming and in pain.
When she tells her handmaiden, "You have no idea what this feels like. Lucky for you, you've been an orphan your whole life." That was so funny and so wrong.
Hey, if you've always been poor, it's not a big deal.
That's true. And I like the interactions with the staff when we get to the countryside villa as well. Obviously, a lot of mess awaits them. And I don't think I named Pampanea's handmaiden, Messia, played by Saoirse Monica Jackson. She is so funny, and she's specifically so funny opposite Tony Hale, who plays the head of house for Don Leonardo's villa.
Yes, and we learned something really interesting. I'm not going to say which servants talk about this, but essentially, they're at a point where if they don't have a master, if they don't have a family to work for, they feel like they don't have a life anymore. And so really being a servant gives them some sort of security.
Yes, a masterless house is a house with no purpose, they say.
That's dark.
Very. And I like the stakes, though that does lead me to the thought of there are maybe too many people here in this villa, and I imagine maybe the plague will take care of too many competing storylines, but we have the stakes of Philomena looking for love, of Pampanea looking for love, of their handmaidens going through their own stories, some death and destruction. And then to your point, the servants in this home also potentially facing some job insecurity, let's say. So it felt like a lot of competing plot points in this pilot, which was already an hour.
It is a long pilot. You also have the polycule. There's a lot of people going after Dioneo, played by Amar Chadha Patel. I also imagine that the plague will knock out some of these people so we can tighten the cast. Because as fun as this was, I don't think it needed to be a full hour.
And I don't think it needed this much story. I think they could have relied on the very fun and funny and dark setup that they already had.
We spent a lot of time getting everyone's background while they're in Florence before they went to the countryside. And I think we could have started in the countryside.
I agree. And maybe have some of the characters introduced later, not trying to get the background of everyone in this first episode.
Exactly. Tighten it up because, like you said, the staff really is a highlight in contrast to all of the nobles and royalty who are essentially fighting for money.
Yes. But they have set it up to be an interesting show, especially those last few minutes. There's some really big potential here.
So with that potential, will you watch more episodes of the Decameron on Netflix?
I will. I will watch it again casually. If you are a fan of Black comedies, I think you'll like this one. I saw a Vulture review say that this show feels like almost nothing else right now, and I would agree with that. So if you're interested in a extremely unique comedy, Black comedy at that, then I think you'll like this. And also for people who love Tony Hale, as I do, specifically in like a servant type role, like in Veep or Arrested Development with his mom, or to Beyonce in that Verizon commercial, maybe this is his thing, like serving very powerful people, especially women. I think you'll really like him in this one too.
I would rate this, would watch again casually as well. I really like the dynamics between all of the cast, and I'm really curious how the characters are going to handle some of their secrets being revealed, because with such a tight cast in a small villa, they can only keep certain things hidden for so long. And I think that makes it an intriguing show.
Real. So, Beej, why don't you take us from the Italian countryside to Gotham? Though I don't know why we'd want to make that trip.
We're doing it anyway. Over to Kite Man Hell Yeah on Max. This series follows the saucy adventures of Kite Man, voiced by Matt Oberg, and his girlfriend, Golden Glider, voiced by Stephanie Hsu, who are working and hanging out at Gotham's seediest dive bar. And they're ready to take their relationship to the next level after getting in a little bit of trouble with Lex Luthor's Legion of Doom. So, Mitu, you have seen the Harley Quinn series, and this is a spin-off, correct?
Yes.
Did you think that added more to this, or this is good for fresh eyes?
I think you can come in fresh to this one and understand who Kite Man is pretty quickly, because he is just such a golden retriever human being of a character, but also attempting to be a villain. I think the Harley Quinn show just maybe helps you understand people a bit sooner, especially this ridiculous version of Gotham where Bane is so silly and Kite Man is not a very effective villain, and Golden Glider has such a creepy power.
Her power is very creepy. You do finally get to see it, and I get why she doesn't use it often. I also was surprised how bloody this series was. I knew it was an adult animated series, and they really lean into that ability to show lots of death and gore and blood and guts.
So many guts, so much just loose tissue of the body. It was so gross. That's the thing that makes me not watch Harley Quinn very often. I think it's very funny. I enjoy the show, but it's hard because it's so bloody. And that's the same thing with this one. So my fellow babies, especially the ones who even have trouble with cartoon blood, which is me, this is a tough watch in that respect.
I will say, though, that the fight scenes were pretty cool. I thought it was cool seeing Golden Glider fight with her ice skates. I also liked seeing Kite Man attempt to be useful, but once holes get punched in his kite, he is not of much help to anyone. So there is some entertainment if you can handle all of the blood and gore.
And the people at the bar who fight, too. They're very funny in their fighting. So it's violent and scary. And one part was kind of sad, but then it's still funny and ridiculous because that is what this cartoon is.
With some genuine heart. Even though Kite Man and all of his friends are villains, the bad guys, they have this genuine camaraderie for each other. They care and support each other. And his relationship with Golden Glider seems like passionate and like a healthy relationship?
It feels weird to say, but I found myself smiling when they kept hyping each other up, and he leaves her little notes to encourage her in her ice skating and the way that they talk to each other and encourage each other. I genuinely found myself smiling watching them interact. This cartoon couple of minor villains.
And they'll also say Kite Man, or Chuck, his real name, is a bit relatable. Not for me specifically, but just in the sense of seeing his relationship with his dad and how that has affected his own thoughts of success and trying to be his own person, and maybe how tough love can affect children.
True. The other person giving out tough love is Lex Luthor, voiced by the late, great legend, Lance Reddick. There is so much humor in the scenes with Lex Luthor and the Legion of Doom as well. It becomes like part workplace comedy.
It really is a workplace comedy.
And with Lex Luthor, not to give anything away, but there is a lot of good intrigue sewed into the last couple minutes.
Yes, there is a greater plot. So even though this has workplace comedy elements where we're going to see whatever Kite Man is doing this week, there's something bigger going on, and Lex is involved in it, as well as Kite Man and Golden Glider.
And obviously Lex Luthor's enemy, Superman.
We did not see any superheroes, which I thought was interesting. Is that common in Harley Quinn?
Well, we saw briefly Kite Man get defeated by Batgirl.
Yes. In the very beginning, he does try to rob a bank. Unsuccessfully.
Very.
But I like that it focuses more on villains. You don't even need the superheroes to enjoy the series.
And they do that on Harley Quinn, to answer your question.
Thank you. So if you're already watching Harley Quinn, will you watch Kite Man Hell Yeah on Max?
Yes, I think I'll watch it the same way, where I watch a couple episodes, I enjoy it, and then I have to take breaks because of the violence. And I think that's exactly how I'll watch this one. So I don't know that falls neatly into a rating of like casually or while folding laundry. It's more like I watch it, I laugh, and then it's like, uh-oh, I can't watch too much guts at once. So I'll pick this back up in a couple weeks.
So you watch it until you processed it too much and we're like, I've hit my limit.
Yes, I've hit my limit of exposed bones.
I'm glad you have a limit on that. I would watch this while cooking, maybe. I think Kite Man is funny and amusing, especially since he doesn't have a superpower. I had never heard of Kite Man before, so I am curious about what kind of adventures he can get into. So how about we switch from a superhero to a superstar who's gotten involved in a lot of things?
A superstar indeed. You're talking about Wayne Brady, the Family Remix on Freeform. Multi-hyphenate entertainer Wayne Brady gives us an intimate, authentic look into his life and core four blended family, consisting of ex-wife and best friend Mandy, his former dancer and Mandy's life partner Jason, and his child with Mandy, Miley. Wayne is looking to live his truth out loud and share some never-revealed secrets.
What an interesting cast you just described with this core four, a modern blended family. What did you think of seeing how Wayne's home life, how it's structured?
I thought it was fascinating. And they know it's weird. They are very clear about the fact that it is odd that his closest friend, it seems, closest confidant, is his ex-wife. He doesn't even like to call her simply his ex-wife because it does not represent the totality of the closeness of their relationship. And then the fact that she partnered with an employee of his, one of his dancers in his Vegas residency, that he did not take kindly to, which he jokes about now, because now they're buddies. And he's even the dunkle. What was
the dad uncle of their child.
Yikes. And so it is a fascinating dynamic. And then Miley's there just being maybe the most mature person in that house as a 19, 20-year-old. And so it's very interesting.
It is. It's nice that they have found a balance, Wayne is very open about how he had issues with Jason earlier on, and it seems like Jason was cool with it from the start and was just waiting for Wayne to catch up. We didn't hear too much
true.
about how Miley felt about this when it started, but I like that they found a way that works for them. It's very non-traditional, and this whole series is about us to learn what's going on in Wayne's life. And I didn't know he was raised by his grandmother, who he called his mother. So he's always had a non-traditional family setting since he was a kid.
That's true. I didn't even think about that it's not like he's striving for some nuclear home that he grew up in.
Yeah, so he's figuring it out. And something else he's trying to figure out, which I guess is the reason he wanted to open up about his personal life with this show, is that he's coming out as pansexual. He wants to potentially find another life partner. And he has another secret he wants to share with the world. I'll leave you to watch that until the end of the episode.
Quite a secret indeed. What I will say, though, is let me put some respect on Wayne Brady's name. When he says in the opening, you may know me from this, I forgot that this man works and has worked for decades. And I think that's wonderful that he is so successful. I actually recently saw him in The Wiz on Broadway, and he was fantastic in it. So funny, such a beautiful singer. But I forget that Wayne Brady is a person, a three-dimensional person, and not a funny character in an improv sketch or a TV host or Broadway performer. And so you and I were joking about this before recording that we were almost thinking, is this his first foray into dating? Because it just didn't occur to us that he could be married with a full life and have kids and have this three-dimensional life because he's a human being and not just this fun character we've been watching. And to that point, though, I think the show could be a little bit more interesting if he were a little bit more primed for reality TV. I think some of the scenes felt a little too produced, or even they were finding things to make fun because at the end of the day, he's a successful performer. So he doesn't necessarily need to have a shtick or a extremely juicy secret or something to be a reality TV person. So, for example, he jokes and spends a bit of time joking about being a grown man who likes to play video games. And I wanted to be like, actually, that's pretty normal. Like, I don't know that requires a whole scene to discuss
not
that.
Special.
Yeah, but I think to him, right, he just wants us to get to know the real Wayne because we know performer Wayne.
That's a really good point. It's like, we know that he can sing and dance. We know that he can be witty and come up with jokes. We know he can act. But now that we're seeing him just be himself, hang with his daughter, hang with his friends, he is definitely coming across as earnest and genuine, of just wanting to be himself for us, the audience, to learn about. And that doesn't always make for the most exciting reality television.
Yes, though earnest is exactly the word I would use. Reality TV is a specific kind of PR sometimes for very successful people. And I truly feel the earnestness with which he is hoping to open himself and his life up. It's just, he doesn't have the most salacious life.
It's true. When I think exciting reality TV, there is some sort of drama, no matter how absurd or minor or weird it can be. And he seems to have a pretty balanced life that's just, fine.
Yeah, what would have been juicy is maybe if the cameras were there when his ex-wife first hooked up with his dancer. Ooh. I think that could have been real fun. But instead, which I think is a beautiful thing, to your point, we're getting I love the people around me. We trust each other. We all respect each other deeply. And we're opening a little bit of that up to you all.
Yeah, maybe we'll see him dating. That could add some excitement or entertainment factor.
That would be very fun. And also, Miley was kind of the sleeper hit of this show for me. I thought she was so funny and very grounded for, as she says, a Nepo baby. And so I also want to see her pursue her career.
Yes, I think she has a lot of potential to make this show exciting without necessarily bringing in drama, just youthful fun, because she's probably more willing to try things than Wayne is.
Yeah, fair. With that, do you want to watch more episodes of Wayne Brady, the Family Remix on Freeform?
I would watch this while cooking. It is a nice, heartfelt family show, or show about a family. And I don't know, I'm waiting to see what that spark is going to be about why I want to see more of Wayne's life. I feel like it could be there, but I haven't seen it yet.
I completely agree. I would watch again while cooking. If you're Wayne Brady Hive, and I think you are, even though you don't even realize that you are, there has to be something there. I think that this will get only more entertaining as he continues to live in his truth. And to your point, Beej, I think there's such a good potential, especially in him dating.
We'll see.
All right. Why don't we take things from Wayne Brady's house to a billionaire's house in Thailand?
You're talking about Master of the House on Netflix. Rune Graj, played by Leah Rakwang, clan head, mysteriously dies in his family's large mansion after marrying his maid, Kaimuk, played by Narilia Golmankopek. And even though each family disagrees with this marriage, they could not object to stop it. And now Kaimuk is searching for evidence because she believes this was a murder, and she's in conflict with Rune Graj's sons, Pupat, played by Chardayudam Hiranyasthiti, and Mawin, played by Thanavate Siriwatanagu. So Mitu, as a big fan of Succession, what did you think of this show that channels a lot of the same vibes with this wealthy father pitting his children against each other? And we also throw in a murder mystery.
This is a very tried and true, very well-oiled engine storyline genre of patriarch is wealthy, has some kind of empire. In this case, it's a jewelry empire. And either he gets very sick or he becomes indisposed or he disappears like in Tom Swift. And then a succession plan needs to come into place of who takes over, which child of mine or ex-wife or new wife or whoever else is vying for the spot. And so we see that here with this accidental ? Death of the patriarch. And then is it going to be the older son who has been expanding the business or the younger son who has been investing elsewhere and has just like a lot of different industry connections? Or is it our girl Kaimuk, who I wish we had gotten to know better in this first episode?
There's a lot going on, and I feel like it was the father, Rune Graj's plan for us not to know Kaimuk too well, because even though his family is aware that she's one of the maids, it seemed like a shock that they were getting married. It seems like he also doesn't approve of anything his sons do, even though they're trying really hard to impress him. Even if it's for selfish reasons where they want the business, they still come up with business plans and he shoots them all down, even referring to Kaimuk for, how would you handle this situation, even though you probably know nothing about the jewelry business and how to run this size of a company. So it's sad in a way, but also entertaining to see the chaos that this father is just comfortably setting down in front of his family.
Sad but entertaining is exactly right. Because it's very rich people, this feels messed up to say, but it is fun, right? It feels like, okay, they're wealthy. I don't feel like I'm punching down here. And I'm enjoying seeing this chaos run amok, as Mama D would say. And in this case, The father is really the one, I would argue, who set all of these things in motion. We see Logan Roy have this moment in Succession. We saw this in OG Dynasty and in the Dynasty that came back, the remake, that these dads are the ones who set up these relationships where their advisors, their business advisors, their children, everyone is basically vying for their attention and to please them. And they're very stingy with that affection, thus really breeding a lot of competition, but not necessarily any sort of authentic relationships. So then when something very bad happens, there is no trust in that house for anyone to feel comfortable moving forward in a way that is evident of any sort of mutual respect, and rather it's just very cutthroat and cloak and daggers and secrets and smoke and mirrors and any other fun phrases to put that are like that.
And how do you feel about the situation that he put Kaimuk in? Because she is not close to his family. She was not welcomed at the funeral. And now there's a lot of questions about what's in the will. Is she going to inherit everything as the legal wife? And it seems like we only see one scene where another maid is like, I'll be there for you. But otherwise, she's pretty much on her own in this.
I didn't get that because if she married him, in theory, she is the quote unquote lady of the house, even though she was still wearing her maid uniform and calling him master rather than husband. So if I were one of the family members, I don't know that I would be as rude to her as they all appear to be. And some of the staff being a little bit cold with her, let's say, because they were not prepared. And it didn't even seem like she was prepared for that transition, that promotion from maid to first lady of the house. And even though this pilot was 45 minutes, which is a lot of time, I felt like we did not hear enough from Kaimuk, but maybe to your literally, she did not speak that much. But maybe to your point, we weren't supposed to. Like maybe it's intentionally she's being obscured a bit, because I couldn't quite tell if her relationship with the master of the house was romantic.
We see very few scenes of interaction between them, so it's hard to gauge how close they were, how long this relationship had been going on prior to the marriage, how she feels after the proposal. Not even proposal. They, I guess, just signed the marriage certificate. It's just
she was still in her work uniform. I put in my notes, he couldn't even give her a heads up. Like, she just was fully clocked into work in her maid's uniform. And then suddenly finding herself getting married, and he's putting those fancy jewels on her over her uniform, which just felt wild. But that is what made me so confused about their relationship. And it almost felt like he married her so publicly in front of everybody in that home to be like, this is my wife. She is protected. She has my name. He seemed very intent on protecting her. And they clearly have a lot of care for each other in the scenes that we've seen where Kaimuk is not necessarily speaking. To the actor's credit, she is appearing to be very distraught over his death and suspicious of the circumstances, as she should be. So there is a lot of mutual affection. I just don't know what it is. It could be romantic. I'm just not sure.
That's a good point. We do see affection. She finds the body and she does scream out. She's upset. And so far, she's the only one that suspects it's a murder. Everyone thinks it was an accident, that he just accidentally got knocked off his balcony, accidentally fell over the rails, accidentally fell and hit his head.
In his house and his office where he works every day, all of a sudden he forgot how the balcony works.
And the police said, case closed. He just tripped.
As one does.
It's very common, really.
I mean, I close all the windows in my house. Like, it's just very confusing that they're like, obviously this man just got confused. He thought he was walking to the bathroom. He walked through the wrong set of doors.
And he said, climb up over the rail and then fall down into the bathroom.
And thus, an accident is ruled.
So Kaimuk maybe is the only one with some sense as well.
Yes.
And we'll get to the bottom of this mystery.
So do you want to keep watching as she gets to the bottom of the mystery in Master of the House on Netflix?
I do. I would watch again, seriously. I think this has some good drama, soap opera, K-drama vibes, telenovela vibes. And I want to see more of Kaimuk. We didn't get what I feel like was enough in this pilot episode, but they laid a lot of seeds. Like you said, they hinted a lot about her affection for her late husband. And I want to see where they go with that. How do you feel?
I completely agree. It's so juicy. There is a lot that I want to see for Kaimuk. I want to see her get her revenge. I don't even know if she wants revenge on this family, but these people really played in her face repeatedly. And I'm ready for her to sort of get to say, I own 51% of this jewelry business. That's the scene I want for her. And I will keep watching seriously for that alone. And if you're Succession Hive, Dynasty Hive, or to BJ's point, like K-Drama Hive, I think you'll like this one.
Nice. Okay, I've been thinking really hard about my favorite DC villain.
I'm so impressed that you can remember the question and think about it in the back of your head while we talk about these shows. Because whenever you ask me a question of the week, not only have I forgotten the question, I'm thinking in real time. Like, how do I respond to this?
Wow. Why would you share that with people?
That my memory's not so good?
You know, I take that back. I appreciate your honesty. You're being very open and vulnerable. You are inspired by Wayne. You want to just live your life. Be truthful. Sometimes you forget things.
And you know, I'm 100% in the moment on the reviews. My mind is not flipping in my head through comic books.
Listeners, like, trust me. Me Too is 100% in the moment. Just when she says that, she means it.
I am a monotasker. That's very true.
To your question for my favorite villain, I'm going to go with Mr. Freeze, specifically the Arnold Schwarzenegger version from the, like, was it early 90s or late 80s Batman movie?
That's a good villain. He's fun.
I think it was actually like late 90s.
Yes, it is definitely 90s.
Do you have a favorite?
I would say from the Michael Keaton Batman movies, either Jack Nicholson as Joker or Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. But she's kind of complicated. She's not quite a bad person, a villain.
Gray area.
We see her origin story, but the Michael Keaton Batman movies, I watched them recently for the first time last year. So
good. For the first time. Wow, I loved watching those growing up.
They're fantastic.
I know they get ridiculed a lot now because the tone of superhero movies has changed, but I think they're fun.
I think they're really good. Joel Schumacher just made them what they should be, which is a fun, campy, good time.
Maybe we'll get back to that. Probably not anytime soon.
No, not with these like very buff superheroes playing very serious characters.
Did you know Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU?
Okay, I don't want to spoil anything, but I am confused about that. Is he going to be Iron Man?
No, it was an announcement at Comic-Con.
Who's he going to be?
A villain.
I need you to explain that. I'm so sorry. Just super quick if you don't mind. Then we'll tell the listeners where they can find more episodes of the Pilot Podcast.
Dr. Doom, the Fantastic Four villain.
So he can do that and still have been Iron Man and it doesn't affect their universes?
I have no idea.
Okay, great. Where can people find more episodes of the Pilot Podcast?
Head to thepilotpodcast.com. You can also listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. And we promise that we will stay the same people every episode.
Yes, we won't come back as villains.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, we won't.
You can follow us on social at The Pilot Pod on TikTok, on Instagram, TikTok, and X. And you can send thoughts, feelings, show recommendations, your favorite comic book villains to askthepilotpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Bye.